Hello, podcasters. Podcast analytics are only really scary when you don't understand what they mean. And that's why we'll be going over the numbers on your analytics tab on your RSS.com account right now. Cue the graphics. So, first off, you might be wondering, how do we compile this data? How are we getting these numbers? And it's actually quite simple. When you sign up and you set up your podcast, you get a feed address that is then on the distribution tab used to send your podcast out to Spotify and Apple and other podcast directories. That address is a way for those directories to know where your information is stored. So, when somebody presses play on Spotify for an episode of your show, Spotify contacts us for that data that we then send to Spotify. So every time we send that data out, we know who is listening on what directory, and we compile that information and put it on your analytics tab. We also have some security measures to make sure that we're not counting bots or any other ingenuine uh, hits to your account. This is going to be the most effective information on figuring out who's listening, when they're listening, where they're listening from. And let's go over it. We've got downloads. Now, measurement by days is the start of the day is UTC time, which is the time zone at the zero longitude, or known as the prime meridian. That's an international measurement time zone for situations like this. So the time of day starts at midnight UTC time. Here you can see today, the last 30 days are exactly that. Pretty self explanatory. All time measurement is from the history of your podcast starting on RSS.com to current day, the number of people that have listened to your podcast. And that is updated daily as well. So you'll see a bump in numbers at around midnight UTC time. RAS is rolling average subscribers. That's how we measure a guesstimate of how many people are actually following or subscribed to your podcast. There's no real official way to know that information. So what we do is we compile the number of listeners in the first 24 hours over the last 3 episodes, and we look at the average of those numbers to come up with a good guess on how many people are probably actively engaged with your content, either following, subscribing, or just paying attention when your episodes come out. We got some great little graphs here that shows you updated hourly. These downloads are showing the average number of listeners over a period of time, rolling average subscribers as well. You got a nice little chart here. Further down, we've got the top 5 episodes in downloads. This is a way for you to see which episodes are really clicking with your audience, how many people are listening, and it is spread out between downloads day 1, downloads day 3, downloads day 7, day 30, day 60, day 90, and total. So after day 90, these numbers won't compile anymore. You'll just be looking at your download totals. There's a day 2 in there that we're not listing, so you'll see a bump in listenership. You can also show all episodes. So if you want to get a better idea of what your show's looking like, what shows are successful, which ones aren't, looking at all the episodes is a good way to do that. You can also, and this is great, export this information as a CSV file. That's basically a file that can be used in Excel or any kind of spreadsheet program. And the trick with this, though, is if you have a lot of episodes, it sometimes takes a while to load all of them on this page. So make sure that all of your episodes are loaded before exporting to CSV. If the page isn't fully loaded, the CSV file will not have all the information. Then we've got top 5 locations. This is self-explanatory. These are the locations of listeners when they're listening to your content. We've got United States, Germany, several different locations in the US, France. You can even look at show all locations. And again, you can export this data as a CSV file as well. And it's got the name of the country and the name of the city or borough. It's not always possible to get the exact location of a listener. So you will see occasionally NA showing up in here as well. That tells you basically we weren't able to decipher exactly what city or what location the listener was in, but we can at least narrow it down to a country. Let's head back to the top here. Under locations is your heat map. This is very cool. This is a way for you to see a global map of where people are listening. The brighter red in color, the more people are listening in that area. So as you can see, the East Coast and West Coast are heavy listeners for this podcast. This is just a real interesting and honestly fun way to look at where your listeners live. You can also break down when people are listening by the time of day during the week. So you can see is that Wednesday is a very popular day for listening to this podcast. The darker blue, the more people are listening. Now, this is the one metric in the analytics tab that doesn't go by UTC time. This is measured by your time zone, usually from where your computer is located. We're in the New York time zone right now. Rolling down a little bit further, you can see that this is breaking down how people are consuming your content. We've got devices from smartwatches, PCs, speakers, mobile, tablet, to platforms like Mac OS or Windows or iOS, Alexas, Linux, Androids, and also client apps as well. So you can see that Google Chrome or Safari or Castbox, Firefox, what application is being used to listen to your content. This is important because the more you understand about your audience, how they're consuming your content, when they're consuming your content, you're going to get a better idea of what day to release. This is a great way to keep track of how well you're doing as far as listenership goes, just by breaking down some of these numbers. Now, I will stress that it's very easy to get carried away and look at your numbers every single day and count every single number. And that isn't a very effective method for looking at your analytics. Day by day measurements aren't really telling you the correct story. It's more important to look at by every couple weeks or by month or even by quarter, every 3 months or so, to get an idea of the direction that your show is going. And hopefully that's up. That's the intention, right? Is to try to get more listeners. So crunch this data, take a look at it, see what you can do by what you can glean from this information to deliver to your audience in the way that they want to consume your content. That's it for now. You can find more information about our analytics and other information about RSS.com in our knowledge base. Just go to RSS.com, scroll to the bottom and click support, and you'll have a plethora of different articles to dig through that will give you all sorts of great information. I'll see you next time. Keep podcasting.